that's January 2nd, and I got a text message about my roller shutter for the truck, that it had finally arrived in Moorebank and it was available to come and collect, and that was at like, I think it was just before 4 o'clock last Friday. They aren't open on the weekends, and yesterday was New Year's Day, so I've just been waiting to head down, jump into the shop because it hadn't been out. We've had horrible weather. Friday I decided to get out and mow the yard. Got the front and backyard mowed, didn't get around with the weed whacker, so it's still sealed along at the edges and that sort of stuff, but it just exploded in the heat. It was a really hot day, so I was sort of just waiting for the afternoon so it'd cool down a bit, and then maybe an hour or so after it finished, it started raining. It's been raining ever since. Rainy and misty this morning. It's now just overcast, it hasn't been raining. Not going to really begrudge it raining when it's our bushfire season. Seen a few little warnings pop up about fires, nothing nearby, but within the 50-kilometre radius that I've set as my warning. But depending on what the weather's like, 2001 fires that happened on Christmas Day, I remember being down at family's southern suburbs of Sydney. We started seeing notices on the news about bushfires. Fires down in the Southern Highlands, I think, southern area, had started to sort of flare up. And those rushed up through the mountains, came up through Warragamba, like basically the south of Penrith. It was in the mountains and it jumped the Nepean River and it was racing towards the coast. It had basically travelled from the Blue Mountains down to the Royal National Park south of Sydney, which is on the coast. It had done that in like 3 hours or something. My friends got evacuated from their place out on the farm that they had at Mulgoa. They lost several buildings on their farm, their dairy. The silos, which are concrete, are still there, but the whole barn that was around it was gone. The house was surrounded by non-native, very lush green plants, and the fire stopped at the house. Nobody was there to save it, but the fire stopped. As soon as we saw that the fact that the fire was going, we left the family and started driving back this way. When we got to the bottom of the mountains, the bushfire was basically all over the freeway, and we just drove through the smoke. We got about halfway up the hill and then all of a sudden hit people who stopped in the smoke instead of just continuing to travel. Fire was on both sides of the freeway. It was on the median strip. We got back to the house and just started checking that everything's there, getting the leaves out of the gutters if there was any. Checked my car. Then the next morning I found melt spots in the plastic bumper on the front. So it was a little Hyundai XL. Burning embers from when we drove through the fire. It sat in the front of the car and it melted the bumper. But that was a very harrowing time. Bushfires were all around. There was burning leaves dropping in, or black leaves, charred leaves, dropping in the yard. And we weren't very close to a lot of the fires, but we were prepared to take off. We'd sort of got those emergency things and had them ready to just jump and go. And at that stage, I was further down the mountain, now further up the mountain and backing onto the bush. And we've had the 2019-2020 fires that were pretty traumatic because they were in our area, very close. We got evacuated once. If it's going to keep raining on and off, I don't mind that. The only thing you don't want is storms that have thunder and lightning, because that's actually what we get a lot of this time of year, and that's what actually starts a lot of the fires in the mountains and out in the bush and that sort of stuff. So traffic's crazy going up the mountain. Well, feeling like a bit of a goose. The text message I got told me that the roller unit was available to pick up, but not the adapter brackets for the bars. I noticed that there was 2 different order numbers on there. Hang on, that's weird. Roller unit had arrived, but the adapter brackets had not. So I've got to come back down again. I also had gas strut assists for the tailgate. I didn't impulse buy them, but I asked them how much they cost. So I knew, thinking I might also check what other stuff they've got there, because they're just a 4-wheel drive accessories specialist. Since I've got to come back down. Starting off the year in trying to be more intentional and organising my time a lot better has not gone that well. I think I was just too eager to get this on, because I hate driving around and not being able to close up the back. I've done it for years and it's just starting to bug me. To really bug me, I should say. Far out. You bugger. Looks like he's been on there for a while. Finally nice to see some sunshine. There's a chance of rain this afternoon and a chance of rain on the next 2 days. Yeah, so we'll see how the rest of the week pans out. I was able to stop by work coming back from Moorebank yesterday. Went into the construction space and found as many of the really deep plywood drawers that I'd basically hoarded from where science labs and kitchens were redone and things were just thrown into the dumpster. I grabbed all of the boxes, all the drawers as boxes, and I've used them quite a lot around the school and a little bit at home. And I thought they'd be perfect for putting together a modular bookcase in the study. My wife said, you've got all timber, why don't you just go and build it? For the space where I want to put something, it's going to be fairly large. I don't want to be carrying that up the stairs. Whereas this is just a whole stack of small boxes and I just need to screw them together. Took all the handles off last night, took the old broken label holders off the front, cleaned them up. Some of the insides are a bit dirty because they've just been sitting around in the back of the construction space for years. I went into the shed and I didn't have the right screws. I either had little tiny screws for sheet metal or big ones for construction. I had nothing for just general woodworking. So I need to get myself some 15, some 20 and some 30 mil screws to be able to screw the boxes together. For the plinth, I think I've got stuff at home because I checked to see whether I had timber to make a plinth so that I could lift it, the bottom boxes off the floor like a bookshelf and have it slide back against the wall over the baseboard. I had a quick look to see if I had timber for that, and I do. Apart from the screws, this is going to be basically a reclaimed materials bookshelf. The timber I've got for the plinth is the old internals from a hollow core door. Decided I wanted the plinth to be about 62 inches long, which is 1570 something millimeters. Pieces from the internal of the door, because I think they were cabinet doors, wardrobe doors. They're a bit over 1600, so perfect. I'm heading to Bunnings to buy screws, and I'm heading up the mountain to Katoomba. I don't feel like going down into Penrith. I'm also going to go to Pet Barn because I went to give the boys their heartworm and we didn't have any, so I've got to buy heartwormer and allwormer for them. It's always dangerous me going into Bunnings. It's like a big toy store. I got the screws I needed, and then I also saw casters because I want to put some casters onto the bottom of a guitar amp because it's big and heavy, and so I needed bolts to suit the casters. Got all that stuff, and then some little sticky hooks for managing cables in the study and in here. Katoomba's very touristy, and on a fine day like today in the break, very busy. The traffic coming through from where Bunnings is to here wasn't too bad until you get into actual Katoomba. and the train station just had tourists all over the place coming out of it. Car parks are full. You see backpackers in there, four-wheel drives, and this is the material I dug out from my plinth. It's about 2 by 1 3/4 or something like that. It wasn't a hollow core door, it was the solid core door that we used to have downstairs, and it was just made up of all these blocks. It's glued together like this, and there were short pieces and long pieces, and the longest ones were the door, the lock sides and stuff. But you can see it's got still got part of the plywood stuck on the outside, so I'm just going to scrape this off and then give a little hit with the belt sander and put together my plinth. They cleaned up all right. Decided to just use the jack plane, and it's amazing. Like, this is just pine, but even just skip planing them has come out with a nicer edge than what was there. So these two will be my longest pieces, and this will be my cross braces. I've got to work it all out. 62-inch long and 7-inch wide. I would divide it by 4. Don't know. Cutting the shorter pieces probably would have been faster using a drop saw, but I worked out 5 will do for this plinth. That worked well. This worked out to 3 inches, so these needed to be 4. Excuse me for working in Imperial this time. It just seemed to work for me from what I measured up in the room. So I'll take these pieces upstairs. I'll build them on the balcony outside the study. So at the moment, that's what I'm thinking of for the shelf. Initially, I just had 4 going along the bottom like that. Then I had 6 standing straight up like this, and a gap in the middle because they weren't exactly the same size, and the gap was just this, a bit bigger than a binder, and then 4 more across the top. And I sort of sat back and looked at it and went, it's kind of dull. Get this out of the way. Instead, I've made sort of a pattern of 4 there, then 2 there, then the same pattern of 4 there, and 2 there. And I'm going to put a plinth underneath, which is this stuff, and these that I just cut up outside, which you might be able to hear the thunder outside now. So I'm glad I didn't set up the drop saw and everything like that, because that would have been a nightmare trying to pack that up in a hurry. So plinth. I'm going to assemble it here. It's going to go on the floor. That's going to lift that up high enough to go above the small baseboard that we've got. And then I'll assemble that like that. See how we go. Block the camera completely. Done. That's in, that's all assembled. It's attached to the plinth, which is down the bottom. Allows me to push it up against the wall. Now I can just put my stuff in it. I think I would like to paint the insides of the boxes because some of them are really dirty looking. That's something that might happen. Well, there's the shelf. It's full. It's not painted. I can probably do that in bits and pieces because it is modular. I've kind of gone work books this side, personal books and music books down the bottom, older books that I've got there, professional and maybe self-help books sort of there. Perfect height just under the board. I can still write on the board if I'm ever needing to, so I really like this. It's all screwed together. It's not going to go anywhere. It's up against the wall, so I won't lose things down the back. And pretty happy with how it's turned out. I do think that like tall ones, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and this space. So 4 and 4.5 tall sections. Whereas in the design where I had 4 boxes, top and bottom, and then 6 standing upright with a space in the centre, I had 6 and a bit tall things. So I've kind of lost some tall book space, but this I think looks better. There's more interest to it. So I'm still swapping stuff back and forth between here and the bookshelf I've got on the other side of the study. In doing this and putting books back on here that were in a box, I've sort of identified some things that I think I want to get rid of and I don't need anymore, or they're out of date and that sort of stuff. So who knows?